Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jodi Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Welcome back to Downsizing Roadmap. Today we are talking about a 3-space decluttering plan, kind of a longer roadmap, a path to just a lighter life and getting started with this challenge. I'm Heather Fisher.
I'm Jodi Roscoe. Yeah, we're talking about taking a year and just kind of deep diving on some, specific areas. If you have some extra time, even if you're not moving, right? This is just a great way to give yourself a plan, a little roadmap to get some areas cleaned out and start first thinking about it and focus on what you're going to actually accomplish. Because I think that's where we get off track sometimes.
Yeah, I think people either get close to their timeline and feel this way, or they just go through, many years of feeling like I don't have time to declutter. And, this is the same in many places in life, but it's not that we don't have enough time, it's that we don't have a system.
Right.
I love a system,
you
Jodi.
love systems, and I am such a convert to how systems just change your life, because I was more of a seat of your pants kind of person, and honestly, systems do and will change your life. So if you have the time to make a plan for your time and use it wisely, this is kind of what we're talking about this time. So we're talking about so that at the end you will have meaningful change. So because I think what I would do as a seat of a pants kind of person would be like, I would wait until it was really irritating me. And then I would go into this kind of like, I'm going to clean all this stuff out. And I would get into the junk drawer and clean out whatever it is. But to get to that place, I had a lot of emotional, turmoil around it that I was just kind of living with all the time. Like, oh, that bugs me. Oh, that bugs me. Oh, that bugs me. And that's a weight. And that's a weight we don't need. Right. Yeah. And so if there are areas that are bugging you, this is just kind of a plan this time. We're going to talk about how to just tackle them and be done with it and move on. And
I think if you're out there and you're a listener of our podcast, that over our episodes, we are presenting, episodes that are challenges in different ways. We've got shorter time frame challenges and longer and different ways to tackle a year. And I think that all of them, what they're showing is there's not a perfect system, but you need a system.
And just one that resonates with you. So we kind of throw out different ones, because some people will be like, oh yeah, I could totally do that. Or that doesn't really make sense to me. But other ones will be the ones that make sense. So,
absolutely.
Different ways.
Pick that one that resonates with what hurdles you're facing, what your timeline is, and dive in. Today we're going to talk about this plan that is really going to tackle 3 big areas over the course of a year. So step 1, as it always is a little bit of planning and dreaming.
Yep.
So really we're giving a whole month to kind of get ready to start doing this.
Yeah.
But I think it's important because, like Jodi said, if you just jump in without a little bit of a framework or a plan, you tend to create more chaos, not see momentum, and then stall out. And honestly, maybe in a little bit worse condition than when you started, because you've pulled things out, but you haven't completed the process. So you'll see as we go along, by giving, a whole 3 months to each space, you'll really get these spaces to the point of completion and better use.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because downsizing the whole house is overwhelming. And when you get overwhelmed, you just get, paralyzed. And if you do it without a plan, you kind of might get certain little areas done, but it still never feels done. So it gets that feeling where it's just never feeling done. So the goal of this one is to, at the end of the year, be able to take, look at those before and after pictures, or that feel of that room, or is that room totally changed purpose, whatever it is, but get to a place where you're like, that feels done, and we don't have to think about that one anymore.
Yeah, or maybe it's a space that's just completely empty by the end of this.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be reducing that room out of your situation
right
in your next space.
Right. Okay, so January, we're going to get dreamy. So identify 3 areas in your home that will have the biggest impact if you simplify them. So week 1, you're going to walk through your home and list all of the areas that feel overwhelming, and list them all. It doesn't matter. You're going to just pick the top 3, but that could be your next year plan or whatever that looks like. Just list them all, and then you can organize that.
Yeah, and I think, many of us might walk around the house and if we have 10 rooms, we have 10 rooms on the list. So I would think in that list, be a little bit specific. What is it about, each space that you're putting on there? It doesn't serve the purpose I want it to, or it's overloaded with stuff, or, whatever.
It's the one that feels the most overwhelming.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the attic or the garage or the basement.
Maybe it's a category of things that aren't all in the same space, but you're naming that category
stuff
as your space, photos or paperwork or something like that, and write down that short little reason why it made the list, so that you can evaluate which 3 to choose. I think the word you used earlier, impact, make sure that you're choosing areas that when they are complete, when you've gone through this process, it will change how your day-to-day operates or your mental state around that. Choose some bigger, important things. Yeah.
Because you're going to have 3 months to do it. So it's not like you're picking the junk drawer. You're going to have 3 months to do it. And paperwork is a great one, honestly, because that can be very overwhelming and can take some time to go through. But once you get a system around that, then you can, not accumulate it all again. So
yeah, that's a part of what we'll talk about is we're going to get these spaces or categories fully to the finish line of, for example, paperwork, not just going through the pile of mail on the table and moving it to the desk to be filed, but really how can you make what you've kept work efficiently for you, so
and
that it
what's the
has an
system for the next time so it doesn't keep rolling through your house. And
exactly. So then you're going to have your list, and it's time to pick those top 3 that you want to focus on, and that's going to be person by person. What's having an impact on you, what's stressing you out, what's weighing on your mind, and which of those 3 do you want to tackle first? I think maybe picking the easiest out of the 3 to get your feet wet is a good idea. Some momentum, but probably all 3 of them are going to be challenges, and that's okay. We'll get you through that, but kind of put that priority order in which one needs to go first.
And it might be useful if you have a notebook that you kind of keep your notes about these things in. Tell yourself what it is that irritates you about each, just really, let it go in that notebook of like what it is that is bugging you, because once you can really see what that is, then you can see what you need to fix and how you need to change it, change that space. And sometimes if we don't spend time thinking about it, we just know it bugs us, but we don't really think why or how it could be different.
Yeah, I think we had talked about this on an earlier episode, but our kitchen drawers, 2 of the drawers where we have a lot of the utensils, spatulas and bigger spoons and all of that, were just wide, bigger drawers, and just getting the drawer organizers changed the function so much. It started with decluttering and getting rid of what I don't use, but then just making, one wide drawer into essentially 3 narrower slots. That changed my everyday of cooking because it wasn't all tangled or, shifting sideways and a big mess. So really that's looking at that purpose of what do you use the space for and what drives you crazy when you're using it that doesn't work, because there's usually a solution.
So then you're going to assign one of each of these areas to your next 3 quarters. And then you're going to write a vision for each space. So like you would write in your journal, by the end of the, month, quarter, whatever it is, I want this space to feel blank. So I want it to feel peaceful. I want it to feel, useful, or whatever that word is, what is it that how do you want these spaces to feel? And take the time to envision that space as you want to use it. Even if it's not being used that way right now. So really think outside of the box of that room or that, whatever you're picking, and what is it that you want that purpose to be? I mean, let's say you picked your garage, you have all kinds of tools, but you don't really, do home stuff anymore. Like, maybe those tools go and, maybe that garage storage space can, be freed up to put your Christmas stuff that's now in the attic, but really hard to get to, and you don't, want to go up there and get it, or whatever that is. Just think bigger than just cleaning it out.
Yeah, it's again defining what those steps actually are. I think you could add in some layers of, again, the garage. I want everything stored in the garage to fit on these 2 sets of shelves.
Yeah.
If you've got stuff piled in the corner, so you're kind of giving that vision of what it will it will feel organized when there are no longer boxes in the corner, or it will feel peaceful to me when I can read my book in here without piles of extra clothes on the guest bed.
Yeah.
So you're completing that full sentence with the emotion. What will it take to get you that emotion around it?
Right. Exactly. So then you're going to track it in your calendar. So you're going to focus on your areas. Put your vision on the fridge. If you're moving on to quarter one's job, and then you're going to write on the fridge, by the end of the month, I want whatever room you picked or whatever area or thing you picked for quarter one. I want this space to feel blank. That's what you're going to put on your fridge, just to kind of give you a visual memory of what it is that you're trying to accomplish in the next quarter.
Yeah. And visual and vision and all of those, that's such a key word. Put this somewhere where you're seeing it every day. That's that motivation of the end result, the why, to keep you as a reminder.
Yeah.
And mark out the next 3 months. So that would be February, March, April. What space is that? Your kitchen, your basement, your garage. That's what we're going to focus on.
Yep. So if it were me, I would take before and after pictures, because I think sometimes we forget all the work that we've done. And if we're going along and we're not doing it all immediately, we don't see that and give ourselves the credit for it. So take those before pictures so you'll remember, oh yeah, that is what it looked like, when you can take that after picture and really, give yourself that credit. But so I would take some before pictures now before you start. And then so in February, we're gonna build our confidence by decluttering what's visible and easy to see. So you're gonna just clean off surfaces and do easy win stuff, because we want to get that momentum going.
Yeah. Starting with those surfaces, flat surfaces, also, serves a dual purpose, because it gives you that space to put things when you start going to the nooks and crannies and cupboards and closets and corners and under the bed. When you've already done the surface level clear, then you have a place to pull things out and start sorting those as well. So you definitely want to start with as clean of a slate on the surface that you can. Get things out of the room that you already know decisions have been made. Just put that into action real quick.
Yeah. So you want to remove surface level clutter, trash, anything expired. My thought process on this would be start your 10-minute a day habit now, and start doing that for 10 minutes a day. And just take your, do your little timer, take your 10 minutes, clear off, whatever that is. If it's a shelf in the garage, if it's, tops of tables, if it's your paperwork, just start collecting it all in one place. Just start clearing your paperwork and putting it all in one place, so you can then start managing it.
Yeah. I would say go ahead and schedule a pickup, donation pickup. Having that on the schedule is one thing that can give you motivation to keep going in the early stages. Even if you need another one later, get that on the schedule for, however many weeks out you expect to have that pile. Clearing it out as you go definitely is a huge momentum builder.
Yeah, so you could schedule at the end of February your donation pickup, so you know when that's going to be, and then you're going to just start, moving stuff off the surfaces, picking, one area to declutter, Do that every day, 10 minutes, do a shelf, do a cabinet, do something to declutter every day, and take away the duplicates of things or broken things, just the low stuff that you never use. You're like, oh, look, this is all dusty. That means you haven't used it.
I think going back to what we say frequently, if you're cleaning out a space too, you really need to pull it out of the space that you're in and touch it, flipping through things or staring at a shelf, thinking what to get rid of. Even if it feels organized at first view, there's always stuff in there. I know we just cleaned out the linen closet, I guess it's not where our towels and sheets are, but it's all the extra shampoo and the lotions and the, Tylenol and all of that. And the amount of stuff, it looked organized. It wasn't spilling over. The shelves weren't, overflowing, but we had a whole trash bag full of stuff expired or just nobody's used it in 10 years, so nobody's going to use that lotion or for whatever reason.
So I think that right there, I think that we can fool ourselves and talk ourselves into all this stuff. And I think you need to believe the action, right?
Yeah.
Just trust that action. If you have not used that in 3 months, a year, you aren't going to. I have an ice cream maker. I always thought I was going to do it. Like, I need to let it go. It's one of those things and then when I see the ice cream maker, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to make ice cream. Well, I don't do it.
Yeah.
And so I just have to trust that action that I'm not and it's still good and somebody would love it and will use it. And I need to get it to somebody who would use it.
Yeah. Well, it's back to that. Oh, you own it, so you feel like you will. And we just, our daughter is off at college, and she was going into her first apartment, and she took the, I can't think of the brand name, but where you make the smoothies, the blender.
Like a Bullet or something.
Yeah. And she took that, and we didn't quite realize she took it in, all of the chaos. I think we actually have two, but at one point we kind of looked in the cupboard where we see it all the time. We're like, oh, I didn't realize she took that. Well, should we have her bring it back? And when you get honest, I'm like, I have not used that in the 5 years I've lived where I live.
Right.
So if she's using it every day, great. But it was that oh my gosh, I don't have that.
Right.
And so
I must need one.
Yeah. So you will experience that as you go through this, whether it's the ice cream maker or the waffle maker or there's a little bit of, you just need to be brutally honest. Mm-hmm. And like Jodi said, trust that the end result is worth it.
Well, and the action, if it's dusty, you haven't used it. You aren't going to. Don't trick yourself into thinking with your brain and your words, oh, I'm going to do that now, because you just probably aren't. So. Yeah. So, okay. So February, we're cleaning off all the surfaces, getting a donation pickup, really starting to see some progress like that. March, we're going to go deep dive, right? Deep dive into inside the cupboards, pull everything out that's inside of things.
Yeah. I think, here in our notes, listing the categories, for instance, if your space is a room and not already a category, I think this is a great time as you're going into those nooks and crannies. What am I storing in here? And then taking a little list, for a day and pondering, is that the best place for it? Mm-hmm. Just because you've always stored fill in the blank in this closet, is that the most useful? Is there a better spot? Do I need to store it at all? But you really need to not only do a deep dive through the stuff, but a deep dive in your questions you're asking yourself. That, as you go back through this process, not everything needs to land in the same space where it was. The goal is either to prepare for a smaller space, and so you want less stuff so that the new space functions well, or you want your current space to function well and lighter. And so is that the best place to go find whatever it is?
We got new nightstands with drawers, and we had old nightstands with drawers. And so I went to change it over, and not a single thing in the drawers and the nightstand that I need. Like, I just didn't even know what was in there. And it was just random stuff, because I can stuff things sometimes. It's not a good habit, but I can be a stuffer. And so, there wasn't anything, not a single thing. And if there was something I needed to keep, it wasn't in the right place. Exactly what you said. Like, that isn't where it should have lived in the first place.
Yeah. Like, do you need your extra battery stash in the nightstand, or is there a better place in the utility? I mean, I think we all end up with just where we've stuffed it in a moment is where it lives for 20 years.
Right.
And you're like, well, that's where the batteries go.
Right.
And so just a little bit more of making your system of your household as a operating system. What's the most efficient place for things and the easiest? And will you have that space in the future, or do you need to change that up?
Well, and that's a good point, because especially when you're moving to a smaller space, in bigger spaces, a lot of times we'll do that. We'll put batteries here and there and somewhere else. And so, or cleaning supplies, like we'll have duplicates of things or whatever. And so when you go to a smaller space, you don't have the room for that. And sometimes you don't even know how much of something you have, because you have it spread out all over the house in different places. So if it's, let's say, batteries, then take them all to one place, and then decide, is that how many I'll never need to buy batteries again. Actually, they go bad, so you will. But,
yes.
But take all of the same things and put them all together in one place, so that you know how much that is. And you may find, you have some stuff that you need to use up, and you don't need, then when you put it in the next place, it goes in one place, not a bunch of places.
Yeah, I lived like my whole life with, not in the house I grew up in, or not the house that, I had for many years, having any organization around some of the simplest things, as you said, batteries. And I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, I, went right for the As Seen on TV commercial.
The battery pack.
We have I think it's the battery daddy, and it's the organizer. And I can't tell you, I mean, that's a great $20 spent. It doesn't need to be that, but like just knowing like that every battery we have, it's there. And if it's not there, we don't have it. And there's no wrestling through drawers. And if we go to get a new battery for the remote, and that's the last one, we're like, okay, order more AA or AAA. And it just takes so many mental checklists off your mind when you have your things in like places and simplified, and what you have. I can't
that's
say
so
it
smart.
enough. Yeah, how just getting things together and knowing where they go and putting them in places that make sense will make your world easier.
For sure. Okay, so March is deep dive. So you're gonna, you're still focused on your same one area, but you're gonna pull everything out from wherever it is and get it sorted. Create your keep and your toss and your donate piles. Make sure that you maybe schedule another donation pickup at the end of March.
Yeah.
So you're ready to have them pick up whatever it is that you want to let go of. And then, repack or redistribute the rest of the stuff in, like we're saying, in the places that are like places.
Yeah, I think that, we talk a lot in things we talk about for work on like habit stacking or making things part of your routine and, making these habits. There's a lot to be said for finding a great donation place that you love that is also on the route of something else you do in a scheduled, timely thing. Here I found this donation place that's near my church or near my grocery store or whatever. And so you can do that habit of having a box or a tote bag in your car, but it doesn't live in your car for 6 months because you've also made the habit of, every other week I'm circling through the donation line, when I go to church or when I go to the grocery. So think about building habits like that if you're feeling like you're not taking that step of scheduling the donation pickup, or if that's a habit, a trait that you fall into, that you make a donation pile and then it gets stuffed back in. because it never makes it out of the house, that quick action to remove things will really give you some wins.
Yeah.
So find ways that you can make sure that's going out.
Yeah, because taking piles and turning them into other piles in a different room is not helpful. It doesn't alleviate any of your stress or get you moving forward. So
Yeah. So find an easy way to just make that another habit that's convenient for your lifestyle that you're already doing.
Okay, so now you've got everything all cleaned out, both out, on the surfaces and inside of any, cabinets, etc. So April, you're going to set up the space to serve your current lifestyle. So back when you were dreaming about what you wanted that space to be, now we're going to make it that space. And that could even be like painting it or, changing the style of it. It could be different furniture, or it could just be as simple as it's cleaned up now and you can use it the way that you want to.
I think this is a good time when you may notice that you can reduce furniture too. Mm-hmm. I think we go into a lot of houses where because things come in and things don't leave, there's a lot of, especially in extra bedrooms and things, you end up with 3 or 4 dressers. When it's not even anyone's bedroom, it's a guest bedroom, but you've just like, all those drawers are full. We need
that storage.
We need that storage. I pulled a stat here that said 80% of household clutter is the result of disorganization, not lack of space. So as you're going through these months, it's okay when you put things back to consolidate, have a whole dresser of empty drawers, and then it's time for that dresser to go.
Yeah.
You don't have to spread out the stuff you kept to fill the drawers or to feel like it's just get comfortable living with that empty space.
That just gives you some room to breathe. It does not, there doesn't have to be stuff on every single wall or, pictures on every, and some people are comfortable in that place. But most people, if they're being honest, they're not. They are feeling a little bit crowded by that.
Yeah. So part of what can make a space function better is to just have a little less furniture in it. Mm-hmm. And so don't always think that it's a full, I have to go get new furniture or whatever. Just live with the space and let that breathe for a little bit and make a decision later on if you really need something else or if the empty space gives you that calm.
Yeah, so ask yourself, is there stuff in the way? Like, is there stuff that, just feels like, I just don't need that piece, or that just feels, that one was making me feel crowded, or whatever that looks like. So you can reconfigure the layout of the room. You could reconfigure the purpose of the room if that's what's happening. As you are thinking forward to what room purposes you're going to need, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, too, it's okay to have even completely, if you're doing this on a downsizing path, that that next space is coming, in the next few years, that you're going to make a move. It's totally okay to have, if you're in a 4-bedroom home, you can just have an empty room and shut the door and you're have that weight of, okay, that's done. Yeah.
And you aren't going to have to try to move, squeeze that stuff in or let go of it right at the end when everything else is happening and you're trying to move and do all those things. You've got that done. If you have a room that you're just kind of repurposing or whatever, you could shop your own house to kind of make that room look new and fresh.
Yeah.
So you could do something along those lines, repurpose that. Is there shelves that you can repurpose for something else, or is it time for those shelves to go because you don't need that storage? So just really think about what that is, and then add any finishing touches to it, lighting, cleaning, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And then enjoy the space.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Celebrate that.
Yeah. So as we're moving...
Take that final picture.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're moving into the next quarter and the third quarter of this challenge, they're really just repeating.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we need to go through them step by step, but it's going to be following that same 3-month plan for the next space on your list, with just a few minutes every day if needed to not let the first space fall back down. So you don't
Right.
want to backward slide on the space that you did finish in the first quarter.
Yeah.
You want to just make sure that you know how to maintain. It should be functioning much better. It should have a lot less stuff, but don't use that empty space as a place to spread chaos from your next area. Protect what's already done so that you don't lose that win. But really just look at the next item on the list, the next room or the space, and repeat.
Right. Some other things you can do, just some other strategies while you're doing it. You can identify the items that you keep just in case. You can, make that maybe box. And if you're really struggling with I might need this, because if you're not believing the actions that it's
Yes.
dusty and that you're not going to use it, you could put that into a maybe box and set your maybe box away for, 6 months or so. And if you haven't gone into that box in 6 months or remember what's in it, you just donate it without opening it. You can create a use it up basket for food and toiletries and, supplies, any kind of, makeup, any of that kind of stuff. Because again, when we were talking about, if you start to really see that stuff is all over the house in different ways and you accumulate it together, you're like, oh my gosh, I have 4 bottles of spray cleaner that I need to now use up, or whatever that is. So you can do kind of a use it up area that you can get rid of that. Duplicates, like, again, same thing, either use up those duplicates, or if it's the same spatulas or something, just pick your favorite one and let the other one go.
Yeah, who can you pass that on to that could get the use out of it that's not you?
Yeah.
I think also another tip is to do a challenge like this alongside of a friend or your spouse, your partner. I know, you and I will text back and forth sometimes over a weekend, like, here's my car full of donations, and, cheer each other on. But really back to what we love when science plays into this, you're 65% more likely to meet a goal when you've said it to someone else and committed to do that. Even more so when they're doing it. I mean, it's not that you're doing it together at each other's houses. You're just checking in. This stat that I read said if you schedule ongoing check-ins, you're 95% more likely to complete your goal. So I think that would be a perfect way to do this. Schedule a coffee or a dinner at the end of each quarter. Name it at the beginning of the year. Here's what share that list of why and what that feeling is you want with someone else, and then check in and go have a little coffee in between the two spaces and just see how the other person is doing, and definitely chat about your wins. I think that's a great way to keep you on track when something is spanning over such a long time period, so you don't lose momentum.
Celebrate that for sure.
Yeah.
And also, that's why we were saying a notebook in the beginning. Write what that is. Maybe write if you're struggling with some specific thing, maybe you need to write about that a little bit, or kind of give yourself those thought processes on why am I thinking that, or kind of just give yourself that room to figure that out. And to give yourself that checklist, like, hey, I've done it, I've done this, I've done that, and write all that stuff down.
Yeah. So then we're starting to get to, the end of the year. I think, maybe you've saved your, sentimental or your emotional category for that last quarter. So we can perhaps talk a little bit about that.
How it might be different than rooms or
the
something.
Spaces, yeah. But I think, some weekly actions you could take if that's what your category is, if that's your third area. You just start with picking the 10 top sentimental or legacy items that you want to keep. I think framing stuff in a positive of what do I want to keep is emotionally easier than choosing what am I going to give away. Just that mental switch. So just, you know what you have, what's tucked away, what are the 10 things that are my top must-have keep items, and start there.
And I think the word legacy that you used is really the key there. So what is it that is the essence of you? Maybe who you were that you want to remember, or maybe who you want to be in the future, and what you want that to look like. But really think, again, get back to that thinking and writing in that journal if that's what that is. But really think about what kind of legacy or from an era of your life, is there something that you want to keep that reminds you of that era of your life. And just 10 though, like not 100. Just
and
pick some things that really embody what that looks like.
If you're struggling to figure out what that is, then I do think journaling around that and writing the story of why you're considering it for the list makes it easier to narrow that down. And we meet people all of the time in our workshops, and I think there's a very big distinction that hasn't clicked quite yet all the time for all of us, that there's a big difference between legacy items and old items, or antiques versus an heirloom. And really, that just because something is old or came through your family does not make it a legacy item. It's just a thing that has been delayed decisions for a long time.
My mom and my grandma had a woman that she called her Aunt Edie, but she was somebody that really wasn't her aunt, but somebody that was very important in her life. And there was time in her life when she lived with her, and when my mom was little, they lived with her. And she had a lot of things from Aunt Edie, who was a wealthy woman at the time. And so we have things that are still from Aunt Edie, and I really don't have an emotional connection to them. So like I have this parasol that's silk and it's cool, but like I don't have it out. And so that's something that probably needs to go, because I know that's where it's from, but it doesn't really have any connection to me. But I also have this gold mesh purse that she had that my mom used to carry when she would go to somewhere fancy. So I remember my mom dressing up, and then she would carry this little gold mesh purse, and it has the coolest feeling when you play with it with your fingers, which I remember from when I was little. And so I want that, because I have all kinds of my own memories around that thing. And so if I only keep that from Aunt Edie and not the 20 other things that are old and seem like they should have some value or something, but they are just old and not mine, really. I mean, they're mine now, but not mine.
I think that that's a perfect example of how when things come down through your family or through relationships to you, that when it becomes part of the person who it came to's story as well, that's how things carry on and are the legacy items. Your mom used the purse, so your memories around the purse are of your mom, and seeing that as a memory for you. Your grandma loved Aunt Edie, but you don't have that connection. Right. And so that's the difference with the parasol. So again, if you have boxes of stuff from your parents' home that you're struggling with, pick the things you love and let them be part of the next generation's story by using them, displaying them, talking about them. And that can't be everything, but your kids and future generations will love and appreciate the things that become part of their memory story. That's the pickle and olive tray that was out every Thanksgiving. Now that will be carried on in your family because you use it at the holidays. If it was still in a box from your grandma's house, your kids wouldn't have any memory around it later on. So that's how you choose those items, are the ones that you already have a story and a connection with, and that's how you pass that on to other people wanting those few things and loving it and letting that carry on. Other than that, if you're not using it and you can't remember whose it was, they're just things, and there's not an emotional value, and currently not much of a monetary value around just things because they're old. It's just the story. So we say that a lot, but this is that time to really be a little honest and then love those things that you keep and use them.
You have to use them, because if you don't use them, there are no memories that come come forward from them.
Yeah. If
That's
you
just
still
it.
have
If they're in a box, they're not.
If you
creating
still
any
have your
memories.
china, from your wedding and you love it, but it's been in a box and you haven't had a holiday around it or anything around it in years, keep 4 place settings and use it
Yeah.
once a week. Have fancy dinner or
Right.
use it every day if you want to. But use it and love it. And that's how it becomes the things that other people love too.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, then September we're talking about freeing up the major space, which we already kind of talked about. But list all the furniture that you would not move again. Like I do not want that in my next house, and then just start figuring out where that's going to go. Are you going to donate that? Are you going to sell that? Start removing those items just out of your house, and it's okay if that makes your house feel a little more spacious. And don't feel like, oh my gosh, it feels empty now. I mean, you might feel that like that in the beginning, and that might feel great, or it might feel like, oh my gosh, it feels sparse.
Yeah.
But either way, the goal is we're going to be downsizing potentially, or even if you just aren't and you just want to live in a house that just is more minimal. In the end, it will feel freer and lighter for sure.
Yeah, if your goal is you just really want to age in place and stay at home, that's a big key for, leaving room for safety by not having obstacles in the way with big furniture to get from room to room and to do what you need to do.
Yep. So then that final quarter, we're going to just kind of clean everything up. So address any items that you still have that are guilt-based. Maybe let go of those maybe boxes that you made for the first quarter and the second quarter that you haven't really used those things yet. Maybe you have a bunch of things that you think are great. Maybe host a little mini giveaway, put everything on your dining room table and be like, this is the stuff that I'm letting go of. If anybody, my friends or family want it. If they don't, it's okay. But you could have a little party around it and be like,
Yeah.
I'm setting this stuff free, and just kind of make it fun. Make sure all that donation stuff is out of the house. And, call for that final pickup if you haven't done that. And then, sit and reflect on what you want that next, what the next stuff to look like, because you've done your 3 spaces. And
revisit what you wrote back 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Am I feeling that emotion now that I wanted to? Do I need to go back and tweak anything to get to that feeling that I wanted to?
Yeah.
And what's the plan for what's next?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an ongoing process, a little easier each time that you maintain it, but it's always an ongoing process. So 3 spaces is a huge accomplishment. Picking 3 big spaces, but then it's like, what
What's
are we
the next year?
revisiting next?
And by now you should have your 10-minute a day habit really set strongly, because if you're just going to do that by, every day, 10 minutes a day, it should be strong. So in November, you can do like house-wide touch-ups that do your bathroom, linen closet, 1 week, do your entryway and your junk drawer another week, kind of just use your 10 minutes a day, do books and media stuff. You could do your car with your glove box and, whatever. But again, just keep that 10-minute a day habit so that you're just always cleaning out something just a little bit, and then it will eventually never come back, which is the goal of it, to never come back. I did my bathroom. You were talking earlier about putting things together, and all I did about your kitchen drawer, but all I did was I just have a big shelf in there. And so I put little plastic bins, and I put all of the hair stuff in one and all of the face stuff in one, and because it would just get moved around in there, And so even that little bit of just putting them in little containers that keep all the hair stuff in one and all the, face stuff in another one made a huge difference. And I threw out all the stuff I wasn't using. So at the same time, and it was a lot of stuff that you weren't using. But
and it gives you those parameters where, the hair stuff, it has less potential of getting out of control, because you're like, here's my bin. I already know I function when this bin is this full.
Right.
I don't need anything else. So when it starts coming in and it won't fit in that bin.
Which one aren't you using anymore?
You rediscover really sooner
you're
that
right.
you need to refresh, because it's not like, oh, the whole linen closet is now
this big shelf of stuff
overwhelmed.
Yep.
It's like, oh gosh, I don't have room in this bin? What do I need to get rid of, or do I just need to say no thank you to this new item coming in?
Right. So then in December, you're going to reflect and celebrate and reset. So reread your journal, look at all of that again. What came true? Does the space feel like you thought it would, like you said you wanted it to in those words that were in your vision? What was easier than you thought it was going to be? What was harder? What do you want to tackle in the next year? Right, because in the beginning you wrote all of your spaces, right? So you picked your top 3. Now you can pick 3 more if you have that time. If not, maybe those didn't take you as long as you could get through some more. Maybe you got through more than you expected this year. That would be exciting too. So don't put that pressure on yourself, but if you have the time for the next year, just do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then celebrate yourself with your accountability partner if you have it, or just with your friends. Come over and see my amazing spaces and hang out.
Yeah, and then ongoing, think about keeping the stuff from coming right back in.
Yeah.
So, when people, when your adult kids and grandkids, like, what do you want for Christmas and stuff? Think on the experiences or the purpose of your space, and give them some guidance to kind of keep it from just filling up with things you don't need and starting that cycle of guilt again. And
right, things that use up, food or products that you love, or things like that, or experiences.
Yeah, going places, maybe a new comforter or something for the room you just got all fresh,
right.
Part of the refresh items.
Yeah.
Give some guidance so that you are in control of keeping that space. You've worked so hard, so we want to see it stay that way.
Okay, so good luck with this whole plan. Go out there and start getting dreamy and see what you're going to do for the next 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you need any resources, our website, downsizingroadmap.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.